If you haven't been following along, this is going to be part 3 of 3 of me turning my backyard into a full-on skate park. That being said, I didn't really think I'd be making a part 2 or 3 to this series when I started either of these projects, so maybe a part 4 isn't completely off the table. Literally the day after completing the mini ramp extension from the last video, I see this on Marketplace for a very reasonable price. I don't know if it's because there was a spelling error or if just no one else is crazy enough to move a mini ramp, but somehow Ian and I were able to disassemble this ramp and get it to my house. This ramp was perfect, not because it was in great condition. Oh no, it was far from it. The flat section was actually completely rotten through and needed replacing. It was perfect because it was nearly the exact size of the only hole left in my original blueprint drawing. This was a space I had no plans on ever filling, but the opportunity was too great and the skate light was too free for me to pass up on this. So my roommate Ian and I spent the entire day in the pouring rain and mud disassembling this ramp and moving it to my house for a full makeover. The first thing I did was take the coping off of one of the sections and replace it with leftover steel coping I had to match the rest of the ramp. I mainly did this because I felt like it'd be easier to weld and the grind would be smoother and more consistent. This quarter pipe is a little taller than the quarter pipe it would be connected to, which I liked a lot. It gives the park a little more variety and character. We used the method I talked about in the last video to level this ramp. We basically just add some temporary 2x4 legs to it for stability, just to get it to stand up where we want it while we cut some actual 4x4 legs that will be more permanent. Also, a side note, I used these damaged 4x4s that I found in the 70% off bins at Home Depot. They're not perfect, but this ramp was free, so I tried spending as little money as possible on this last section, since I was pretty financially cleaned out after the previous edition. For the other quarter pipe, I completely redesigned it. I cut off 6 inches off the top of it so that the deck would line up with the back deck of the other quarter pipe I built. I really like that this quarter pipe is smaller because now you can come out of it a lot faster, which really opens the door for manual tricks over the flat section and even ride-on grinds on the outledge I built later. If this were the same height as the other quarter pipe, then the whole flow of the park would be slowed down dramatically. I installed both of these quarter pipes before the flat section because I was building the flat section from scratch. To kind of fit my theme of repurposing, I built the flat section almost entirely out of wood left over from the mini ramp I took apart in my first video. I felt like it didn't meet the standard of the ramp I originally was building, but now that I'm using an already Frankenstein ramp, I felt that these were appropriate. This is the section out of the 3 that needed to be the least precise, so I could kind of fix my imperfections from my other 2 sections by tilting or skewing the flat in one direction or another. Oh yeah, I also cracked one of the sides of the frames, so in order to support this, I used a giant 2x10 that I also scored from the 70% off bin, instead of a 2x4 to kind of act as a stint to the crack section. It's held up so far, so I'd say it's worked out pretty well. Ultimately, this part of the build is pretty self-explanatory. You cut the sheets at the length they need to be, and then you lay it down and put some screws in it. For the coping on the tiny quarter pipe, I went with a much smaller size than I used in the rest of the ramp. This is so that you could still grind on it, but when you manual over it, you wouldn't hang up on it as much as you would with normal coping. I don't know, I also just like the way smaller coping feels for some tricks. Here I am trying to weld these 2 sections together. It's definitely not perfect, and I know all the professionals in the comments are gonna light me up, but so far it's grinding super well, and if it ever breaks, I'll just weld it back again. Luckily, the skate light fit perfectly. Since I cut off a few inches from the quarter pipe, it allowed me to extend the flat section a few inches, which was nice because the original mini ramp was a little cramped, although personally I don't have a problem with how compact and quick everything is in this park. It almost feels like it improves my reflexes a little bit. I added this box to the back deck so that the riding surface matches up with the old deck. Now the back fence can also be continuous. Often when I have friends over, we need somewhere to set our keys or drinks. Something I never considered was including more non-skatable but useful features, such as this back table. I cut a hole in it that perfectly holds a Home Depot bucket with a lid that I can simply empty whenever it gets full of trash. It's also great for fingerboarding, and I decided my next video will be of me making a scaled down fingerboard model of this park on top of the table. I just released a different video of me making a scaled down version of my local skate park, so if you're into this kind of stuff, please consider subscribing if you're not already. Now I'm just going to be making the ramp look and skate a lot better. So first, I sanded all the coping to remove the rust with a sanding disc on my angle grinder. I then taped off all the coping and gave each piece a minimum of 2 coats just to freshen everything up and make it look new. This next step is absolutely crucial. After those dried, I gave them each 3 to 4 coats of this Watco Lacquer Spray. I was recommended this stuff by a friend, and it is the biggest game changer I've come across yet. I haven't waxed the coping once, and sometimes I feel like I speed up when I lock into 50/50s. Along with helping you slide, the stuff also really helps preserve the paint underneath the lacquer and will keep it from rusting. I'll throw a link to the exact stuff I use in the description, but there's probably other good brands. This is just the stuff I use, and it's worked really well for me so far, and it's relatively affordable for what it is. Here I have my friend Oscar cutting some scrap sheets of plywood to stop boards from going under the hubba and to just give the ramp a more finished look. Here I had my friends come over and help me paint my ramp. To once again match the theme of repurposing material, I used discounted outdoor paint I got from the return section of Home Depot and mixed it with some of the white acrylic elastomeric roofing paint I used before. We added a couple coats of this to the whole ramp and it should help with the waterproofing and the longevity of the ramp in general. I like this color better than the white I used before because it hides dirt a lot better and gives the ramp an earthy feel. I do plan on having my friends add a mural to the side of this eventually though, which is why I tried to cover the side of the ramp with some scraps. I then just filled in some of the bigger cracks with spray foam and sealant so I could paint over them. This turned out a little uglier than I had planned, but in hindsight, I don't know why I didn't add any backing to the foam here. The last things to do were just add these little balusters I found to make the fence somewhat match up with the old one. I just painted them and added 2 screws to each one. After cleaning up, the ramp was now finished and I got to see all my friends enjoying this place. I love making this little documentary style video and also love hearing you guys' suggestions on what to add next. I don't plan on extending the floor plan of it for a while, but if you have any ideas on what I could stick in the middle of this thing to make it even more cramped, then I'm all ears. Thanks for watching, guys.